Thank you, Senator. AB 1470, the Solar Water Heating and Efficiency Act, helps to answer a very important question about how California should meet its demand for natural gas. And in order to frame that discussion, I'd like to remind you of some of the options that are before us in addressing that question. The first is to continue on the current path with overwhelming dependence on out-of-state natural gas basins in Canada, in the Southwest, in the Rocky Mountains, even as we face increasing competition from other parts of the U.S. and Canada for these resources, and even as our own demand continues to increase. And even as we try to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions from the burning of fossil fuels. Another proposal is to build any number of liquefied natural gas terminals off California's coastline, which would diversify our natural gas portfolio, but also raise its own questions about environmental impacts, public health and safety issues, etc. Another option, though, if these don't sound particularly appealing, is to reduce our demand so that we don't have to take so many of these problematic steps. AB 1470, by investing in solar hot water heating technology, is quite simply the biggest tool we have in the toolbox to reduce our natural gas demand. This is a highly underutilized and immediately deployable technology with the potential to reduce gas used in homes to heat hot water by up to 75%. Statewide, a fully developed solar hot water market, which we expect to be stimulated by this bill, could reduce natural gas demand by as much as 5% in California. This will not only result in cost savings for the ratepayers who utilize these systems, it's also going to benefit ratepayers as a whole, because reductions in natural gas demand will help stabilize rates, it will make energy supplies more secure, and it will lead to long-term reductions in wholesale natural gas prices. AB 1470 in effect finishes the important work of SB 1, with billions of dollars now invested in electricity displacing solar. We need to address the other half of the equation, natural gas displacing solar technology. This bill fills that gap by spurring the installation of 200,000 solar hot water systems over the next decade. The incentive program will be capped at $250 million. If the goal can be achieved for less money than that, it will be achieved for less money than that, and it will be tied directly to the results of the pilot program currently underway in San Diego to make sure that we have the benefit of that data. By helping California ratepayers reduce their fuel consumption, this bill will also make a very substantial contribution to our greenhouse gas reduction goals.
I move the bill.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggins.
Thank you. Again, by promoting a fully developed solar hot water market, we can reduce up to 6.8 million metric tons per year. Combined with the bill that we just spoke about, that is almost as much from those two measures as the Air Board has put in place in its early action items. So we have editorials in the last few days from the Sacramento Bee and the LA Times pointing out that this is good for the environment, good for ratepayers. I believe the Sergeant has distributed those editorials. For all the reasons stated therein, I would request your aye vote. And with me to testify is Bernadette Del Charo from Environment California.
Support? We are in support. Senator, thank you very much. California's reliance on natural gas is a growing problem. Whenever the prices for natural gas spike, Californians have to pay more to simply cook, heat water, and keep their houses warm. And of course, because unlike most other states, California is overly dependent on natural gas for our electricity supplies as well, California homeowners and businesses experience a double whammy when prices go up. Solar water heating technologies are the most effective technology available to homeowners and businesses today to reduce natural gas demand. And in so doing, as the Assemblyman has already illuminated, we can significantly reduce global warming reductions, pollution, as well as save consumers money. We are here in strong support for this bill and appreciate also all of the help of the Chair in strengthening the cost-effectiveness language. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Daniel Kim with Pacific Gas and Electric Company, and we do support the bill. We do think that this is one of the few ways that we can reduce gas consumption, and especially to meet the post-AB 32 requirements that are in front of us.
Jessica Diaz with the California Solar Industry Association expressed support of the bill, and thanks so much to the committee staff for their help on this.
Tommy Nella from Unlimited Energy.
in support of the bill as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Hanson, Sierra Pacific Solar, in support of the bill. Thank you.
I'll be supporting the bill today, and I appreciate Mr. Huffman taking the amendments. We have a motion from Ms. Wiggins, and Melanie, will you call the roll?
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Dutton?
No.
Dutton, no. Batten? Calderon? Cox?
No.
Cox, no. Padilla? Ridley Thomas? Semidian?
Aye.
Semidian, aye. Wiggins?
Aye.
Wiggins, aye.
3-2, you need 2 more.
Tell us about this bill, just in outline form, and how you feel about what's gone on today.
Well, I'm very excited that the bill is now well on its way to passing out of the Senate. This is, I believe, the nation's most ambitious solar hot water incentive program. It would, over the next 10 years, incentivize the installation of 200,000 of these units in California. It authorizes the PUC to spend up to $250 million in incentives to make those installations happen. And if it succeeds in the way we think it will jumpstart a solar water technology that can potentially reduce our natural gas use by 5% statewide. So that's a big, big tool in the toolbox to manage our energy challenges, to reduce our greenhouse gases, and to provide a little more stability for ratepayers on natural gas along the way.
5% doesn't sound like much. Can you elaborate on the significance of 5%?
Well, 5% statewide actually is a big chunk of our demand. Excuse me. We don't have any other tool in our policy toolbox that comes anywhere close to that kind of a bite out of our natural gas demand. So 5% is actually quite significant. And if you look at some of the projects that are being suggested, liquefied natural gas, etc., and look at the kind of percentage increase in our natural gas supply that those would provide, you see that a program like this actually is a great option to consider instead of going that route of bringing in more natural gas from places that are far away, that are dangerous, raising new environmental questions, public health, public safety questions. Hopefully with a tool like this we can avoid some of that, and also avoid the current path that we're on, which is using more and more natural gas from Canada, from the Rockies, which is getting more and more environmentally destructive. They're beginning to find new ways to rip up the Rocky Mountains in order to get us natural gas, and we're finding ourselves competing with rising demand in Canada, with rising demand in other states. So for all sorts of reasons, getting a handle on the demand side of this challenge is very important.
Mountaintop removal gets you natural gas?
Not mountaintop removal, but some deep and creative and destructive ways of mining for it.
So what kind of response have you got? Is there opposition to this bill? You had a whole long line of supporters there.
And it still didn't move through.
There was some opposition. I'll tell you, we started out with a lot more opposition than what you saw in today's hearing. So we started out with all of the investor-owned utilities having problems with the bill. Obviously the big natural gas users like Calpine, folks like Sempra Energy that make a lot of their money selling natural gas. We had a pretty broad, as well as the Chamber of Commerce, a broad array of opposition. The reason you saw so little opposition today is all of the hard work that has gone in over the last few months in addressing concerns, in building bridges and making this a bill that is now pretty broadly supported. And Jessica Diaz, my terrific staffer on this bill, is the main reason that we were able to neutralize a lot of that opposition.
How did you neutralize it exactly?
Well, a few of the concerns, for instance, from PG&E involved the very aggressive targets that the Public Utilities Commission has set for their reductions in the demand for natural gas. So they wanted to ensure that, for instance, this program would not in any way interfere with their ongoing efforts to reduce demand through other conventional natural gas displacing technologies like blankets on water heaters, like double pane windows, or conventional but more efficient water heaters. So we were able to, for instance, draft an amendment to make sure that this technology simply actually made their natural gas reduction goals easier and in no way confounded them. So they're actually able to come into a support position.
Since they are interested in selling more natural gas, how is it that they would be supportive of this?
Well, part of our battle that was made a little easier with PG&E is that PG&E does both electricity and natural gas, and a huge driver of the price of electricity production, of course, is the wholesale price of natural gas. So we've been able to successfully show that by easing demand for natural gas through this immediately deployable technology, we might actually in the long run drive down wholesale prices of natural gas and in turn make it cheaper for them to generate electricity to sell to their retail customers.
And did Sempra go along with that too?
Well, Sempra is only in the natural gas business, so alas, they've not. It's a little bit of a tougher sell.
And what would you say in response to the objection by turn?
Well, I think they make a legitimate point that going to a equal cents per therm basis in how we calculate this surcharge to fund this program would be a fair and equitable way to go. We've decided in this bill at the legislative step in the process not to get into the rate-making level of detail. We are letting the PUC decide how to calculate this charge. And if the PUC thinks that that approach is the way to go, they can do it under the approach that we've laid out.
Can you elaborate for the layperson just exactly what those terms mean? I can't even remember.
Yeah, the real issue is it's very technical. You want to take a stab at that, Jessica?
Sure. So obviously for these incentives you need a pot of money. And it's going to be generated from what will be a very small surcharge on residential ratepayers. So for the average residential customer, it's about 13 cents a month. And so we have language in the bill to make that a usage-based surcharge, such that customers who use more natural gas will pay more. There's also language that says the Commission will establish a surcharge for each customer class, which we take to mean that every customer class included in the bill will pay the surcharge. And so TURN is looking for an amendment that spells out a precisely equal cents per therm, which is the unit of natural gas usage.
What they're trying to do is take away from the PUC the discretion to use different rates and rate structures for different classes of customers. They want everyone to pay the exact same cents per therm used. And that's sort of a principle that they fight for. And our belief, and they may be perfectly right that that's the way to go, but our view is to let that be debated at the PUC level when they go to lay out the details of this program going forward.
What's the worst thing that can happen with the different classes of...
We're really talking about pennies. Here, the PUC has calculated the surcharges in the neighborhood of 13 cents per monthly bill. So whether it's done on an equal cents per therm or some other kind of volumetric calculation, it's not a big deal. It's really the principle that TURN focuses on.
And what are the different classes of customers? Would that mix residential with business?
The PUC, has different classes: commercial, industrial, residential, etc.
So, can you explain in a little more detail what exactly the bill would do?
Sure. What the bill does is it directs the PUC to roll out this program to incentivize 200,000 solar hot water heaters to be installed throughout the state in the next 10 years. It has been argued that the PUC already technically has the ability to do a program like this, but they haven't done it, and no one has really come forward from the investor-owned utilities to ask the PUC to do it. So with so much potential natural gas demand reduction, with all of these challenges that we're facing that I talked about earlier, we thought it was time for the legislature to step in and say, go do this. So that's what this bill does. And it does require the PUC to have a public hearing to very carefully and rigorously go through the cost effectiveness when it goes to set the amount of the incentive and things like that. So we'll make sure that we're getting a good bang for the buck for the ratepayers as well as all of the benefits of greenhouse gas reductions and natural gas price decline over time, natural gas demand reduction. That's what this bill does.
And what's its future? I mean, what happened today exactly? Were you cheered by the response?
We are heartened, I think, by what happened today because although we're still waiting for a couple of votes to trickle in here in the Senate committee, and they may already be in for all I know, our expectation is that we're going to pass out of the Senate Energy Committee this morning. And we had initially run into some serious concerns from the committee consultant and the chair. We were able to work those through. And part of that was by taking an amendment that clarifies that the PUC needs to conduct this cost effectiveness analysis and needs to protect ratepayer interests through that mechanism. So frankly, that's what we always intended to happen anyway. We were fine to take that amendment. We think this will be very cost effective, and we don't see any problem with that. But getting those concerns worked out, getting the chair's support was critical to getting the other votes we needed, and our hope is that it'll now be smoother sailing through the Senate and hopefully on to the governor.
And what's the timing, best case timing?
After that, we're about to go on a break for anywhere from 1 to several weeks, depending on how quickly we can get a budget passed, and we will then take the bill up in the Senate Appropriations Committee. We'll be working with the chair of that committee, Senator Torlakson, to move the bill onto the Senate floor later in the summer. And our hope would be to put something on the governor's desk for his signature in the September-October timeframe.
I have the incentives, the rebates that were, is this in any way comparable to the Million Solar Roof rebate program?
It is comparable and very complementary to that program. The big difference and the importance of this program is that is funded out of the electricity rates and is entirely dedicated to technology that reduces electrical use. But we also have this other technology that can reduce natural gas use, and it will be funded on your natural gas bill. So very complementary. Taken together, these two programs represent, the great potential of making California the Saudi Arabia of sun, as some have said.
The rebate program on the Million Solar Roofs, I thought, had run into problems with the time of day rates being adjusted by the utilities, so that the installers were losing. Right. So how?
And we hope that those kinks have now been ironed out. There was a bill that we passed and the governor signed a few weeks back to correct that unintended consequence. You don't have those time of use rate issues with natural gas. It's a different situation, so we shouldn't have those kind of problems.
So if a person who doesn't get natural gas installs a solar water system, then
if they have an electric water heater in their home, then they will displace electricity, but the vast majority of hot water heaters in homes around the state are using natural gas.
And what's the relationship with propane heated? Is there such, this is terrible, but I don't even know. I think we have propane.
You have your own propane tank?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that you would qualify actually for the incentive program. This is only for folks that are on the natural gas system.
So that's really a good thing to understand.
So any other comments or thing you think people ought to know about this?
Just that when a bill like this is developed and as it moves through the system, what people see from the outside are things like today's hearing, where a legislator comes in and makes a speech and a vote is taken and everyone pats the legislator on the back. But a bill like this is a long effort, and it takes a lot of work. Our bill sponsors, Environment California, have worked tirelessly to develop the factual foundation, to develop this really rising tide of support we see for this reform. My staff, Jessica Diaz in particular, have put in endless hours working with all manner of stakeholders, from industry to environmental groups, environmental justice groups, folks that are interested in how low-income ratepayers and communities will be affected. So many things have to be ironed out to have a bill at the end of the day that sails through committees and gets to the governor's desk. I think we've done it here. But I hope the outside world has some appreciation for the incredible amount of work that staff and groups who support these type of bills put in.
Thank you. One more question. You also were sponsoring a bill that talked about linking water efficiency and energy efficiency, right?
Right.
And that's another just huge. Could you speak about that just a bit?
Well, right. Our water use is one of the best kept secrets out there to reducing our energy use. Almost 20% of our energy is embedded in how we move and store and treat and heat water. So increasingly, as we look to how we can reduce energy use, we're finding that water conservation is really a twofer. We don't have enough water. We need to conserve water for water conservation's sake, but it's the great untapped potential really in energy savings as well. So this bill simply says that the California Energy Commission, which sets building standards and considers energy efficiency in developing those standards, can now also consider water efficiency to better, I think, help reduce our energy load.